Okay, so this is 2.6% problems, okay? And what we want to be able to understand in your percent problems, and you can have, as I always, you have the notes, you have the PowerPoints. So you can choose with method, but I focus on the equation translation method because that's what you just did in 2.4, right? Translations. So is means equal, okay? Of means multiply. What number, what percent, all of those represent the unknown, which means variable. And so when you have these problems given to you, you just translate them, and then you'll have an equation right in your face, and you would just do what? Solve. Well, what do you solve for? You solve for the unknown. So whoever the variable is, right? So let's look at this one. We have 16 is what percent of 32? So it's just direct translation. 16 is what percent means X, of means times 32. So I'm going to just write this to look and simplify it where it makes sense, right? X times 32 is 32x. So how do I solve this problem? Well, I'm trying to solve for the what? The x. What's that mean? It means isolated on one side. So who would need to move if I'm trying to isolate x? The 32 would have to move because the 32 is on the same side with the x, right? It's a process, right? Your brain has to go through the steps. You're not just going to get it. You got to teach yourself the steps. So we got to go and divide both sides by 32. So 16 divided by 32 gives us 0.5 equal to x. Now, this asks for the percentage. So when it asks for the percent, when you get the decimal answer, you have to change the decimal into a percentage. Well, how do you change a decimal to a percent? That's a basic mathematical concept. You move the decimal 2 places, right? 2 places to the right. So 0.5 becomes 50% because the open spot is filled with a 0. So anytime the question is about what percent, you have to make sure that you convert the decimal into a percent. All right, number 2, the next one. What is? So what means variable? Is means equals 80%. Anytime you see a percent in a problem, when you translate it, you should translate it and write it in its decimal form. So 80% becomes 0.80 because you are translating and rewriting the 80% in its decimal format. That's what we do. Of means times 90. So 0.80 times 90. So x would equal, so x is already isolated here, so 0.8 times 90, right? That's just a multiplication. I just simplify what's there because your variable is already by itself. Next, 30 is equals 60%, 0.60 of, so times what number? That's x. So this is what we're looking at. We're looking at 30 equals 0.60x, right? So what are we doing? Solving. Solving for who? Solving for x. So what's that mean? That means we have to isolate the x on one side. So who's on the same side with the x? The 0.60. So how does it move? It divides. So we divide both sides by 0.60, right? Opposite operation. So 30 divided by 0.6, 50. So 50 equals x. And you should be using your calculator to calculate this stuff. What is 4.5% of 800? So you should see if you can do 4, 5, 6, and 7. You can do 8 too. So do 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you should pause it and you should do those. Let me write them. But hopefully you can see them. What is 4.5% of 800? What is 4.5% of 800? And then 5, what percent of 50 is 14? What percent of 50 is 14? 15 is what percent of 45? What is 3% of 90? And then 120 is what percent of 80. So you can just like do one, then start it and translate another one, right? Okay. All right. So I'm about to do them myself. All right. So let's see. What is X is 0.045. So when you change that 4.5% into a decimal, you have to make sure you realize the 4.5%. Scratch work over here. 4.5%. Basic math concept 1, 2.045. You should know how to change a percent to a decimal. Times 800. That should have been your setup. And then you just simplify it. So X equals 36. So if you did not convert your percent properly, well, you know, you understand now, right? So we correct our mistakes, and then it's less likely that we make the same mistake again, okay? That's why working them and getting them wrong is better than not working them at all, okay? That's why we use pencil, so that we can erase. We're going to make mistakes in math. It's bound to happen, trust. All right, so what percent of 50 is 14? So what percent? X of 50 is 14. Yes, so 50x equals 14. Because what percent means X, of means multiplication, 50 is 50, is means equals 14. So I'm trying to solve for X, so we divide both sides by 50. So X equals, so 14 divided by 50. 0.28, and we want to make that a percentage, right? So 28%. Next, 15 is what percent of 45? So 15 is 45x. Divide both sides by 45. 15 divided by 45. 0.33 repeating equals x. So we could just be at 33.3%. It's good enough. Or if you just did 33%, that's okay too. What is 3%? What is 3% as a decimal? 0.03 times 90. 2.7. Okay, and then the last one would be 120 is what percent of 80? So we would divide both sides by 80. 1.5. So this is a percentage one. So that means we would have to convert this into a percent, which would be 150%. Okay, so percent problems. You translate it and then you just solve for your variable. And sometimes your variable is already solved for, so you just simplify as much as possible, right? All right, 2.6.